Namaskar, my dear students. Today in the preclinical prostho section, we will discuss all the anatomical landmarks of the maxilla. We will learn them to locate on the model and the impression. We will also correlate with the oral cavity. Besides, we will discuss their importance, their role as a denture bearing area. So let's begin. Now let us locate them first. Now this is the oral cavity, the intraoral maxillary arch. We make the impression, we get the negative replica, that is the impression. Then we pour it with some gypsum product. We get a positive replica, that is the model or the cast. We paint them in our preclinical exercise to understand the landmarks. So I have a painted one here. Starting anteriorly, the landmarks, this is the labial frenum. We get this as a labial notch in the impression, and this is the labial frenum in the model. Second is the labial vestibule. On both the sides, the labial vestibule is present. The labial frenum divide the labial vestibule. This we get as a labial flange on one side and labial flange on the other side. And this is the labial vestibule which is seen in the model. Then we have the buccal frenum. Buccal frenum is present here. It can be single or multiple. This we get as a buccal notch, and here is the buccal frenum which is recorded in the model. Then comes the buccal vestibule which is present posterior to the buccal frenum. This is the buccal flange, and again this is the buccal vestibule. Then we have the hamular notch area which is present in the posterior seal area. This is the area of the hamular notch. The yellow part we can see, this is the hamular notch area. And the posterior palatal seal area, which is the posterior extension of the denture, it should be recorded in the impression. Very, very important for the seal of the denture. The green part you can see, this is the posterior palatal seal area. Okay, now we have a rugae in the interior portion, and this is recorded like this, which is seen in the impression. We can see the pink part. This is the rugae area. Okay, this is the horizontal part of the palate. We can see in the oral cavity. This is obtained in the impression, and then this pink part represents the horizontal part of the palate. Now, this is the alveolar ridge, the ridge which is obtained after extraction, and this is the bulge in the posterior region of the ridge which is called as maxillary tuberosity on both the sides. And we get this as alveolar groove in the impression as a depression. Okay, and this brown part is the alveolar ridge, and the blue part is the maxillary tuberosity. Okay, now coming to the center, this is the incisive papilla. We will discuss all of them in detail. This is the depression that you will get of the incisive papilla in the impression. The orange part you can see, this is the incisive papilla. We move posteriorly. Here we have the mid-palatine raphe. Okay, this is again obtained as a depression in the impression and elevation in the model as it is present in the oral cavity. Now dear students, this topic is very important for your preclinical practicals. The teacher often asks you 3 points. First, you should know how to locate any landmark. Second, its anatomy, its muscle attachment, and third is its role or function. So now we will discuss the maxillary landmarks under 3 headings, that is the limiting areas, second is the supporting areas, and third is the relief areas. So we will begin with the limiting areas. Now the limiting or the peripheral areas, they determine the denture border, the extension of the denture. So if we talk in the oral cavity, we will start interiorly. This is the labial frenum. Okay, it appears as a labial notch in the impression as I told you earlier also, and this blue is the labial frenum which is obtained in the cast. We move posteriorly. This is the labial vestibule. This is the labial vestibule on both the sides which is present between the labial frenum and the buccal frenum. It appears as a labial flange in the impression, and this is the labial vestibule which is seen in the cast. Then this is the buccal frenum. Again, it can be single, it can be multiple. It appears as a buccal notch in the impression, and we can see the blue areas. This is the buccal frenum attachment. We move posteriorly. This is the buccal vestibule, which appears as a buccal flange in the impression, and this is the buccal vestibule which is seen on the cast. And last in the limiting areas, we have the posterior palatal seal area, which forms the posterior seal of the denture. It should be recorded very accurately in the impression. Okay, the green part, can you see this forms the posterior palatal seal area. Labial frenum, the first limiting and the interior-most structure. It is a fold of mucous membrane at the median line. We can see in the picture. It appears as a notch in the impression. This is called as the labial notch. We can easily just locate the labial frenum on the cast or the model also. It extends superiorly from the lip to its attachment at the labial side of the ridge. Now this attachment can be at various levels on the ridge. There is a classification system. I have shared the link in the description. It contains no muscle and has no action of its own. Okay, so that is why a U-shaped notch is recorded in the impression and the denture to allow the frenum to pass. Second is the labial vestibule. Labial vestibule is divided into left and the right side by the labial frenum. Okay, we can locate them on the cast also. The labial vestibule is present between the labial frenum and the buccal frenum on both the sides. It appears as a labial flange in the impression. It is not keratinized and it is covered by lining mucosa. A MCQ question often asked by the teachers also. Orbicularis oris is the main muscle in this region. Now the muscle part you will easily correlate when you will study the head and neck muscles. But yes, I will tell you all the muscle attachment in the denture bearing area. So orbicularis oris is the main muscle in this region. The fibers of the orbicularis oris, they run horizontally. I will show you the picture also of this muscle. Buccal frenum. It is a single, double or multiple fold of the mucous membrane. It divides the labial and the buccal vestibule as we can locate it on the cast. It appears as a buccal notch in the impression. Three muscles are present in the buccal frenum. Very important multiple choice question and the question often asked by the teachers. Buccinator, which pulls backward. Orbicularis oris, it pulls the frenum forward, and levator anguli oris, it attaches beneath the frenum. You can just remember it by the word bole, B-O-L, buccinator, orbicularis oris and the levator anguli oris. Now it gives a wider notch in the impression and in the denture also it needs greater clearance. Okay, because of these muscle attachments. Buccal vestibule. It extends from the buccal frenum to the hamular notch area. Okay, it is covered by lining mucosa. We can see on the cast also and it appears as a buccal flange in the impression. Okay, it is the size of the buccal vestibule. It depends on three factors. First is the contraction of the buccinator. As we can see in the picture how the fibers of the buccinator, it is affecting the posterior region, that is the buccal vestibule, and the orbicularis oris fibers. The fibers are present horizontally in the labial vestibular region. Second is the position of the mandible. When the mandible opens or move to the opposite side, the width of the buccal vestibule, it reduces. Why? Because the coronoid process, it moves anteriorly and it narrows down the buccal vestibular space. Third is the amount of resorption of the maxilla. More the resorption, wider vestibular space will be present. Hamular notch. This area marks the distal limit of the denture and also the impression. The yellow area on the model we can see is the hamular notch area. It is situated between the pterygoid hamulus and the alveolar tubercle. This alveolar tubercle forms the tuberosity. Okay, there is loose areolar tissue which is present in this region, so it helps in giving the posterior palatal seal to the denture. But the denture should not be overextended in this region. It should extend to the center of the hamular notch. Otherwise, it will cause pain and soreness to the patient. Posterior palatal seal area, very important area. We can see the marked area in the oral cavity. It is the junction of the hard and soft palates. It should be recorded very nicely in the impression. The green part we can see on the model shows the posterior palatal seal area. It is actually the area on which the pressure within the physiologic limits can be applied by the denture so that it helps in retention of the denture. The functions of the posterior palatal seal area often asked by the teachers. It helps in retention, first of all. Second, it reduces the gag reflex. Third, it prevents food accumulation under the denture because it is giving the seal to the denture. Then it also helps in compensating the polymerization shrinkage of the acrylic resin. We use acrylic resin for making the denture, so it will help in compensating the shrinkage of the acrylic resin. Now second are the supporting areas, the areas which will support the denture. We will discuss them as primary stress bearing area. The flat part of the hard palate is the primary stress bearing area of the maxilla. Secondary stress bearing area, we will discuss rugae and the alveolar ridge. Now let's locate the supporting areas in the oral cavity. First is the flat part or the horizontal part of the hard palate, which is the primary stress bearing area. Okay, the pink part we can see on the model, it shows the flat or the horizontal part of the hard palate, and this is how it is obtained in the impression. Second is the rugae area. Rugae is present anteriorly. This is the rugae area. The pink part is the rugae area. And third is the alveolar ridge. The alveolar ridge and the rugae, as we said, it is the secondary stress bearing area. It is obtained as alveolar groove in the impression, and this is the brown and the blue part. They form the alveolar ridge of the maxilla. Primary stress bearing area, we have the flat or the horizontal part of the hard palate. Now understand, it is formed by the palatine processes of the maxilla. Okay, and the palatine bone. It forms the foundation of the hard palate. Why primary stress bearing area for the denture? Two reasons. One, it is perpendicular to the forces. It is present horizontally. Second, it is resistant to resorption. Secondary stress bearing area, we have the rugae. Rugae are present in the interior part of the hard palate. They are irregular shaped rolls of dense connective tissue. We can mark them on the cast also. They are secondary stress bearing areas. Why not primary? The first reason is the palate is at angle to the residual ridge in this area. And second, the soft tissue covering is thin in this area. Alveolar ridge. You know, the shape and the size of the alveolar ridge, it changes when the natural teeth are removed. When the natural teeth are extracted, the sockets are filled with the bone and the bone form changes. We can easily locate them on the cast now, and it appears as an alveolar groove in the impression. Now, why it is the stress bearing area? Because it is covered with stratified squamous epithelium, which is thickly keratinized and firmly attached to the periosteum, but to the secondary capacity. Why secondary? Because the alveolar bone is always subject to resorption process. So it is a secondary stress bearing area. Now let us discuss the relief areas one by one. In this we will discuss the incisive foramen, mid-palatine raphe, sharp spiny processes, and the torus palatinus. Now let us locate the relief areas in the oral cavity. This is the incisive papilla in the midline area. It appears as a depression in the impression. This is the incisive papilla. It mainly covers the incisive foramen, okay, which should be relieved. Second is the mid-palatine raphe, which is present in the mid of the palate. It appears as a depression in the impression. This line is the mid-palatine raphe. Incisive foramen, it is located beneath the incisive papilla, as we can see in the picture also. It is situated behind and between the central incisors in the dentate. It comes near to the crest of the ridge after resorption in the edentulous cases. We should be able to locate it on the impression. It appears as a depression. The orange part we can see in the cast is the incisive papilla. Incisive papilla is very important for doing the cast marking, that is drawing the reference line. I have shared the link of the video also. Now coming back, the nasopalatine nerves and the blood vessels, they pass from the incisive foramen. That is why it is considered as a relief area. If not relieved, then what happens? The denture will apply pressure on the blood vessels and the nerves. It will cause vasoconstriction and nerve irritation. It leads to decreased blood supply. It also causes paresthesia, pain and burning sensation to the patient. Mid-palatine raphe. It is a slightly raised bony ridge. It marks the medial palatal suture. Over this, the mid-palatine raphe is present. It is considered as a relief area. Why? Because the submucosa is very thin in this region and the soft tissue which is overlying this area is also non-resilient. It should be relieved, otherwise what will happen? The denture pressure, it may cause soreness and severe pain to the patient. In some cases it is very prominent and it becomes a fulcrum point for the denture. Sharp spiny process, they are mainly present in the recent extraction case. Okay, these sharp spiny process, they irritate the soft tissue present between them and the denture base. Frequently it causes soreness and pain to the denture. So they should be properly marked and they should be relieved to prevent the soreness. Torus palatinus, it is a hard bony enlargement which is most common in the mid-palatal area. We can see in the picture also. There is a classification system of torus. Okay, I have discussed in the examination video. I have shared the link if you want to go through. Now why it is considered as a relief area? Because it is covered by a thin layer of mucous membrane. So the denture base should be relieved so that there is no trauma and soreness in this region. So that's all for today, my dear students. Thanks for watching the video. Do not forget to like the video, my dear students. You can give your topics in the comment section. Subscribe the channel if you are still new. Wish you success today and always.